In this episode, we look at the intersection of business analysis and project management. Hello, and welcome back to the Project Management Podcast at pm-podcast.com. This is the live stream for episode 489, and I'm Cornelius Fichtner. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And I kind of feel like a broken record when I say this here. For those of you who are only hearing audio and not seeing video because you are listening to this recorded, then yeah, remember, this is a video episode. If you're only getting the audio, please look for the play video episode link in your podcast app or go to pm-podcast/489. So our topic is business analysis, and our guest shares her wealth of experience and knowledge navigating the fascinating intersection of business analysis and project management. We'll be diving deep into the career path of business analyst. We unravel the trajectory that one can expect, the skills required, turning points that shape a BA's career, and we also have strategies for transitioning from one field to the BA side, addressing potential changes, and you get some resources from us as well here today. Two areas that are of particular interest to me in all of this is the intersection between the BA role and the Agile framework, and also the impact of artificial intelligence on the business analysis profession. And here to answer all of these questions is our guest, Laura Brandenburg, who joins us today from Michigan. Hello, Laura. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me here, Cornelius. It's a big honor.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. For those of you who do not know Laura, let me give you a introduction here. So she is the founder of bridgingthegap.com, an online training company helping mid-career professionals start in business analysis and become business analysts. She delved into the field of business analysis. I'm going to do that throughout the whole interview, going between business analysis and business analyst. So she did that in 2003 after serving in various roles within the publishing industry. And then her leadership talent became evident when she built a 15-person team of business analysts. Okay, this time I got it right. Project managers and QA professionals during a director level role that she assumed in Denver, Colorado in 2006. So good successes to her name, but she yearned for something bigger that fully allowed her to express her values and contribute. And so she started her own consulting firm, Bridging the Gap, in 2008, where she brings her unique insights and experience to a wider audience. She is the author of the impactful book, How to Start a Business Analyst Career. And Bridging the Gap is now a top-tier provider of online business analyst training. Laura, to get us started, let's kind of look forward into what people can expect here. So by the end of our conversation, what do you think people should be able to take away?
Yeah, it's such a great question because it kind of sets the stage for everything we're going to talk about, right? I think from a big picture perspective, I would love people to take away, like, just with a deeper appreciation of how essential both project management and business analysis, both in the roles and the skill set, right? You mentioned like the business analyst versus business analysis. And I think business analysis shows up as a skill set in so many different roles. And so just an appreciation of that, as I'm sure project management shows up in a skill set in a lot of different roles as well. And, often I find when working with people who are outside the BA title or profession, like they actually may be doing business analysis. So if that resonates with some of your listeners, like just an appreciation of where that skill set has been applied either in an unconscious or unaware way. And that might be something they choose to augment in their career and realize that they actually have some excitement and passion around. And then some of you are going to be like, well, no, that is like nothing like what I want to do. And just have an appreciation for what the business analyst who does enjoy that can bring to your project and maybe how to work with them more effectively as well.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you for that preview. As always, also, because we are live, if you are joining us live here today, either on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, then please do interrupt us. Do post a question in the chat like we have here from Varun. It's not a question. It's a thank you for helping him to pass the PMP exam. But this is what it'll look like. I'll bring you up and we will answer your question live on the show here. So let us get started with our first main topic, the career path of a business analyst. Laura, can you describe the typical career path for a business analyst? Some of the standard job titles, maybe roles that a BA hold as they start out and then advance in their careers.
Yeah. So one of the challenges is the titles are really all over the map. So some of the more common titles are systems analyst, business analyst, of course, maybe process analyst or business process analyst. Uh, Anything with analyst in the title often involves some business analysis skill sets or capabilities, but those are like the main titles that you might see in a job description. Also, you see titles that blend with a specialty. So, like Salesforce business analysis is a big domain in and of itself, or a healthcare business analyst. So, based around a specific business application or an industry or domain or an expertise. And I think, as people are getting started, those are often the initial roles that they find themselves in, or they might even find that one of the intersections with project management, often like a technical project manager, I found those roles often are seen have a lot of business analysis responsibilities as well. And like as you grow and expand within the career, sometimes the titles shift. The most logical title is into more of a senior business analyst role or a lead business analyst role. But we also see people who are less of a leadership role and more of a higher level architecture role. So going into business architect or solutions architect or something where you're leveraging those BA skills still on an individual contributor basis, but at a much more strategic level within the organization is some of the places that we see people go.
What was it like for you? What got you started in business analysis?
Yeah, so I was a quality assurance engineer, and that was my foot in the door to IT. I came into a publishing company. I was doing associate editor work, and we on books, right, print books, so not related to the tech department, and got into the online content products that our company was creating as a quality assurance engineer. And I think I just asked too many questions where somebody was like, Laura, can you please be on the other side of the requirements? And that turned out it was not even on my radar at that point as a career path, because I was only a year and a half into my quality assurance role. But it turned out to be the place where I landed and just realized this is actually the career that I've been looking for the last 4 or 5 years in corporate. And it really made a huge difference for me. Yeah.
And you know that I kind of took the next big topic already away, because it's the getting started kind of conversation that we want to have. So thank you for telling us how you got started. But what are some of the steps that an individual can take in order to get started in business analysis, and to in particular those who are transitioning maybe from a different role? You were in QA and you said, I just asked too many questions and that's how I got in. Is that the trick? Just ask questions?
That I'm so glad you wanted to dig in deeper, because I often will say things like that kind of undermine what I was doing, right? Oh, I was just I was in the right place at the right time and somebody stopped me in the hallway. And then I started to write my book about how to start a business analyst career. I was like, I can't actually give career advice that is just be in the right place at the right time. And it actually wasn't a valid assessment of my experience either. What I was doing in quality assurance was asking a lot of questions, but I had also built an entire test process for a new area of testing that hadn't been done before. I was doing business process analysis. I had built great stakeholder relationships, testing across multiple different areas of the business. I had a deep technical understanding of the tools that we were using in our company. And so I was starting to do business analysis in an unconscious way. And that is the advice that I give people, not to do it unconsciously, but to actually consciously look at the skill sets of business analysis and look for opportunities to do them, whether or not you have the title, whether or not you have the role. And there are always opportunities. One of the easiest ones is to start by just analyzing a business process. And that can be your project management process is a business process, your software development process is a business process, or as an end user, how you do a specific type of process day to day, week to week, month to month can be a great opportunity to just start building that skill set.
Honestly, you make it sound way too easy. There have to be some challenges right there. So,
Right.
so what what type of challenges do you have to expect as you're getting started in it? What are the hurdles that maybe
Yeah.
you have to overcome?
I mean, the biggest hurdle is that most business analyst roles require experience, right? So people
Ah,
who want to get in, like, especially if you already have a few years of career experience, there's usually a handful of entry level business analyst roles in any major metropolitan location. And those are pretty much preserved for people who are right out of college, ready for entry level salaries. So if you have career experience in another profession and you're looking to get in, you really need to find a way to qualify yourself for those mid-level roles that require 3 to 5 years of experience, which is why often people in that position like do need to start doing business analysis outside of the role to build that experience, and also really doing a deep dive into their past experience to understand what ways have I been doing this unconsciously already, and how can I formalize that skill set and really bring appreciation to the areas that I've been doing business analysis already, so I can speak to that and speak to those underlying capabilities in an interview.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty much giving the same answer that I would give somebody who says, I want to become a project manager, but everybody is asking me about my experience. What do I do?
Yeah.
Well, act like a project manager, be a project manager, understand what it takes to be a project manager, and just start doing it on your day-to-day job
Yeah.
as you would normally. Yeah, yeah. All right then. Then since I've started talking about project management here, let's go into the intersection here, where we have the handshake between the business analysis side of our business and project management. Um, Talking about how these roles differ, how they overlap. Um, let's start with that, maybe. Tell us what the differences and similarities are between the roles of a business analyst and a project manager from your perspective as a business analyst.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be my perspective as a BA. I'd love to hear your perspective as well, Cornelius. But
Yeah.
and my so I guess the role of the business analyst, especially as we talk about it within Bridging the Gap, is we teach within a software project. So I will just give that frame of a perspective. There are business analysis roles that are not on software projects. The skill sets that we teach and the type of roles that we support would be a business analyst on a software project. And so that would involve looking at, why are we doing this project? What are the business processes that are in place currently? What are the problems that we need to solve with this project? And then what is my plan for coming up with the requirements, not the whole project plan, but my plan for defining and analyzing these requirements? And then what are the details requirements? What does the software need to do? What does the business need to do to manage and make that change and transition and start to use that new solution? So that's how I would characterize the BA role. And so really in the why and the what, right? And obviously there's a huge intersection there, because the project manager is also often involved in those up front, often maybe even leading that. Sometimes like the BA isn't as involved depending on the organizational context, but ideally they are involved in that why, leading to the what. And so the project manager would be understanding, okay, now here's all these requirements. How do we actually implement them, right? How are we building the team that includes the business analyst, includes the business stakeholders, includes the implementers, getting that team together and making sure that everybody's on the same page to implement that project. So the BA, kind of what are we building? Then the PM, making sure that those requirements get built and implemented and rolled out together. So I'd be interested to hear your perspective on that as well. Yeah.
I was actually going to go somewhere completely different, and that is because you said, the how we work together. What happened to me in my early career was that I was leading, smaller projects where you had a very limited staff. So anything about the requirements, you didn't have a BA to do that. So as the project manager, you would take on the role of the business analyst as well. That would fall to you. Has it ever happened to you in your career as a business analyst where you became the project manager, where you suddenly were managing the whole project? You weren't the BA anymore. It's like, yeah, I'm suddenly in charge of this whole thing. And even though my main function is BA, I'm suddenly becoming the junior project manager here, and I have to learn how to manage this project. Whereas the PM has to suddenly learn, how do I actually do the BA work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was lucky early in my career to be in teams that had both roles. So, and being able to work with project managers. I would say the first time that happened to me was when I started to transition to the role where I built a BA, PM, and QA team. Right. So I was in that organization. We had just acquired 5 companies, and I was looking at an enterprise level of the overlapping, with help from consultants, like the overlap between the functionality in the software of those companies. And then it became, okay, now we're going to start building a consolidated software system to eventually migrate all of those companies into. So I started that with a very BA hat, and quickly, of course, we needed a lot more resources, including QA, including additional BAs, including project managers, to start to manage the program of projects that came out of that initiative. And so I think in the early days, it fell more to like almost the development team and the business team to manage some of those projects. I think that I just have that BA. I find this in people. They have either a BA leaning or a PM leaning, right? So when you are, my perspective was to really stay focused on that. What is the strategy? How do all these things fit together? And kind of do just enough to manage the project, which looked like, running a weekly meeting, keeping on track of who is doing what next, what's the list of action items, what are the key issues we need to resolve. So kind of doing that project management light kind of work just to keep things moving. Yeah.
What is your experience working together with project managers? Are they able to step back and give you the freedom you need as a BA to do your work? Or do you usually feel completely micromanaged by them, sort of task by task, minute by minute, telling you what you need to do?
I have heard of BAs having that experience with PMs, right? And so I personally have not. I have worked, usually it's been a very collaborative relationship where we do sit down and figure out what are our roles and what are our strengths and how are we going to work together, what's our communication, if what are the things that you need to know about, what are the things I need to know about. So I personally have not had that kind of micromanaged experience, but I'm also the kind of person who's also always thinking like 3 or 4 steps ahead. And so I think it's hard to micromanage somebody who's thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead.
Where do you think we complement each other, project
Yeah.
managers and business analysts?
I think that the ideal synergy is when, for the outcome of the project, right? We want to deliver the most value the most efficiently. So, like, how do we achieve ROI from a project? It's both what is the return on that project and what is the investment in that project. And so, when you have the mindsets of what is the problem that we need to solve, what are the key requirements, like where are we actually going, along with like what's feasible, what is it going to take to build this, what are all the pieces and parts that are involved in getting this brought to conclusion, right? And you can bring those together. You can find that sweet spot of both, like, what are the quick wins, the easy to do things that achieve a lot of momentum quickly, but also like where's the best use of this budget to accomplish something meaningful for the business. And so I think that's the kind of synergy to be looking for between a BA and a PM.
Yeah. Do you feel appreciated by the project managers as a BA? Because I'm asking this, we got this comment here from LinkedIn. Unfortunately, we do not see the names of people who are posting comments on LinkedIn here live. PMs actually appreciate the support of BAs.
Yeah.
Would you say that is true?
I think so. It sounded like for you as well, when you were in that role needing to do the BA work, you would have appreciated the support of a BA. I also see sometimes PMs feeling like certain BAs can get off track, right? Which does happen. Like, we can get so involved in the detailed requirements, and I've had this happen too, where the scope becomes bigger than it needed to be or that we even have time for, and like there's attention too. So I think it's appreciation in that somebody else is really taking care of the analysis and making sure that the business stakeholders are aligned on what needs to be built and delivering the kind of requirements that help make the development timeline really doable and achievable, but also that watch guard of like, when did we actually kind of get into scope creep here, right? Or when did issues come up in the requirements that do affect the schedule, and making sure that that communication path is open so that the PMs are involved. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let us move on to our next topic. And we've skimmed it already, right?
Yeah.
For us project managers here, what business analysis skills are particularly valuable for a project manager, and why? And let me twist this a little bit, right? And let me twist it in such a way by saying, what skills do you as a BA expect that I have, so that we work together, that I understand what you are doing and I can support you and I can do everything to help you be successful?
Yeah, I think the biggest support that a business analyst needs from a project manager is an appreciation for and a support around getting the business stakeholder community involved, right? So as a business analyst, I elicit information, I discover information, I analyze that into requirements, I ensure that the business validate that and ensure it's what the business really wants and needs. But like, I don't own it. I can't sit in a vacuum. And if I have an 8-hour day, I can't just sit there and figure out and make up what those requirements are. Right. And so I think sometimes the time pressures that come in the requirements process are often not like they're due to how much input and collaboration the business analyst needs with the business community. And so appreciating the input of the business stakeholders, both from a senior level, but often like the actual people who will be using that software. So an end user type stakeholder or a subject matter expert type stakeholder, and helping pave the pathway to get those people actively involved in the project and scheduled and resourced and available for the project can be a huge win for a business analyst who's working with a project manager. It's one of the most challenging parts of doing the job and also getting the job done on time for the rest of the project.
Has there ever been a project where you thought business analysis was really key here? Whether the BA, work came from the project manager or whether it came from an actual BA, where you'd say, without business analysis, without a solid, look at these processes, this project would have failed.
I feel like one of my
Every single
mantras is
one,
on
right?
every project. On every successful project, there's a business analyst. You're not necessarily going to find somebody with a title, right? Like, how can you even know if the project is successful or not if you don't know what problem you're solving, which is business analysis? Whether it's the project manager doing that analysis or a business stakeholder or an actual business analyst. But I will say one project that just kind of came up when you said that. I was working on one of my very first projects as a business analyst was working on an ebook platform, which back in that day was kind of a new brand spanking, new thing, right? New thing. And it was a different business model. So before our products like predetermined a set of content, and that was the content people bought when they bought that product. And now the system would be like they could select what ebooks they wanted to put into that product. And that requirement, just that ability to customize what content got in to their selection, ended up touching 3 or 4 different systems. It impacted multiple different departments in our company. And like it was listed as sort of like a one-line thing in the project charter, right? Oh, yeah, we need like this ebook thing. And it's like when I started to really look at, well, how are we going to do that, and what is that going to take, and what sort of business processes do we need in place, and where's the information stored about what that customer has licensed or purchased, right? It just like took this one little line item and literally blew it up into a pretty big component of the project. But like it was also an essential, like it was an ebook platform, so like it was an essential piece to being able to deliver that successfully. And I feel like as a business analyst, I saw that early on, whereas like it could have been one of those things that kind of was a gotcha, like, oh, we're almost ready to go live. And like, wait a minute, we haven't figured out the licensing piece, right? And then it would have really kind of derailed everything.
Okay. We are still talking about the question of what BA skills does a project manager need. And before I'm going to actually turn this around on its head and ask exactly the other thing, what can I do as a project manager generally to keep up to date with my BA skills? Where do you think I should go? What should I be focusing on in order to have a better appreciation continually for BA? We project managers, we have to, especially if you're PMP certified, we have to go through all these courses and earn PDUs and just keep up to date. But nobody ever talks about keeping up to date with BA. So what do we do in order to keep our BA skills current?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like, not to be self-serving, but you could check out our website, Bridging the Gap. We've got a ton of free resources. We release new video content there on a regular basis, which is a nice like way to just keep in touch. I would also say like be in active communication with your business analysts, and as they do professional development, ask them to share what they're learning with you and what some of the developments are in their industry, and have those conversations. And you could go to the extent of attending your local IIBA meetings or doing a business analysis conference of some sort just to stay in touch. But I think just starting with the BAs, and having those conversations, that's what I have a developer husband. And so I feel like that's a big way that I keep abreast of development technologies, is just having conversations with him about what's new and exciting in his world.
Yeah, you mentioned your company. I'm typing it into our chat here. Let me make sure I'm typing this correctly. Minding-the-gap.com, right?
Bridging the
Oh,
gap.
minding the gap.
I like minding the gap, though.
Bridging.
That is
the
very
gap.
British.
Yeah, mind the gap. I've visited London so often, and there's always the mind the gap when the doors open. Bridging-the-gap.com. You can go to mindingthegap.com as well. I have no idea what you will find there. If you're looking for BA, it's better to go to bridgingthegap.com. Now, let me turn this on its head. What project management skills should a BA have, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the biggest ones that we train people on that I see as a gap, and that's essential, is being able to come up with your plan to are to figure out to detail out the requirements. So once the scope of the project is defined, like this is where we're going, this is the problem we're solving, this is what the solution looks like at a high level, what are the business processes specifically that you need to identify? What are the use cases and wireframes or user stories, whatever, what's the whole backlog look like? What are the data models? What are the other assets that you might need to be creating? And then having that as a plan, and then being able to identify who are the stakeholders that need to be involved that can then support your project manager in getting those people resourced and allocated to your project. I think that's a key business analysis skill. And then also just an appreciation for what is the critical path, right? So when I was always looking at how to take that, I might have 10, 15, who knows how many business processes or use cases to work through. What are the ones that are going to help the implementation team solve the biggest problem or make that next architectural decision, or what is the logical sequence of implementation so that I know I'm building towards that and I'm staying ahead, so that this can, whether or not we're agile, this can be an iterative collaborative process. And I'm working my business analysis deliverables within the context of what the rest of the team is doing.
Yeah, what you're saying is pretty much what I would recommend anybody who works on a project, whether you are a tester or a designer, or has a general understanding for these kind of things.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very fundamental for everybody. Okay. Now we're getting to one of the topics that really interests me and that I wanted to get into here, and that is the Agile Business Analyst. Because if we're looking at a waterfall project, a plan-driven project, there's a lot of analysis and planning that happens up front. And yeah, obviously, a business analyst, very helpful there. But once we get into the agile side of things, where do business analysts fit right there? We have 2 weeks iterations. Things are very narrowly focused. Where do you see the role of a business analyst in this type of environment?
Yeah, I see the role show up in a few different places. One, it might be like, it might be before those sprints start, right? And figuring out what's the big picture view for the next 3 to 6 months. That what are the epics or the product backlog? Like, what are the key things that we're working on, and navigating, working with the business to really get clear on what their big picture priorities are, so that when it gets to the point of breaking that work down into those little increments, it's meeting those biggest picture priorities from the business. So it might be very more strategic and high level and sort of outside the agile software development container, if that's how we're defining agile. But then also within those 2-week sprints, or within the agile delivery cadence, like, we see business analysts either being in a product owner role. It's a very logical career progression to make. Or the role that I have filled more often has been is a support to the product owner. So the product owner might be doing some more of that strategic work, kind of figuring out what's coming next or navigating with the business stakeholders. And then I am working with them to really discover and analyze the details for, working a couple sprints ahead, so that those user stories have the details that they need, so that we can go into sprint planning with a good idea of what success looks like from a business perspective. As well as helping prioritize that backlog and bring examples and ideas and specificity to what those user stories need to be. So there's a couple different ways the role can start to intersect. The skill set is obviously relevant regardless of who is doing those activities. Yeah.
When I originally heard about Agile as a more traditional plan-driven project manager, that's what my career started out with. I really had trouble getting into it, because I wanted things to be documented. I wanted to have things planned out. I didn't want to start until I knew exactly where I was going. And I would assume that as a business analyst, you have a similar preference for neat documentation and, putting all your ducks in a row and understanding exactly where you're going. So how can a BA support agile principles like continuous improvement or responding to change? Because these are things that are always happening on agile projects. The customer changing on a dime and saying, well, yeah, that's nice that you documented all of that, but we're going this way now. So how can a BA change? What is a BA to do in situations like that to help?
Yeah, I think there's still, you mentioned change, and just like my very first agile role, like I had drunk the Kool-Aid of change, right? Like, oh great, we're agile, like change is accepted and embraced. And so what happened though is a new stakeholder had been identified just 3 days before our sprint one was supposed to start. And I had a set of user stories that I felt like we're 80% complete, but like until we met with that stakeholder, I knew that we were missing information. I didn't know what it was, or else, because I couldn't pull it out of a hat. And so I went into sprint planning with those stories with that caveat, like there's still some open questions. And it was like, that's okay. We can embrace change. So like 3 or 4 days into that sprint, I was like, okay, here's the changes. Like we got the stakeholder feedback now. And those developers were not happy with me, right? They were really unhappy that they had started down one path and now we're being asked to switch. And they ended up still building what we had said was in place for sprint one, and then we had to go back and change it in sprint two. So like I learned a really important lesson. Like there's different kinds of change. There's change that happens because the business, like what we know about the environment changes, or we have to respond to an opportunity or a new problem. Like we have new information that we could not have had. Like we're heading down one path and we're taking a very intentional pivot. And then there's change that happens because we actually like haven't yet finished clarifying what we want, which is a lot of unnecessary change and leads to still unnecessary development time and rework and inefficiency. And so I feel like my job as the BA is to help navigate that. Like when are we at risk of having unnecessary change that's going to lead to rework, and how can I get ahead enough to prevent that from happening?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I see. So what you're saying is that a business analyst's job on an agile team can be helpful to better understand what the definition of done actually
Yeah.
is at the end, but also what do we really want?
Yeah.
The
To bring clarity.
understanding that
Yeah.
defining the clarity of the requirement. Um, in the theory, when you look at agile project management, oh, agile is great if you have requirements that are not well defined and that are not well understood, and you kind of need to explore into whatever you might in the end actually develop. That's kind of an idea of agile. Not all, not 100%,
Yeah.
but that works. And you're saying that if you have a business analyst, the business analyst can come on and can help formulate, document, and define that uncertainty, flesh it out, and help you actually, get around not understanding what it is that you're building. Am I sort of
I think that's
translating that the right way?
100% correct. I mean, there are some things, right? There are questions that maybe are hard to answer until you see what development can create.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think often there are more cost-effective ways to get answers to those questions. So instead of building the whole software, could you put a wireframe that shows what it might look like in front of your business stakeholders and get their reaction to that? Something a good business analyst could create in like 15 to 20 minutes versus needing to spend a whole sprint building out, right? So I think it's like where is the lack of clarity and what is the best way to get that clarity? And sometimes it might be we need to invest 3 months in iterating and seeing what's possible and bringing a proof of concept to market that we're going to test and then revise, right? And knowing that we're making that investment in clarity in that way, sometimes it's like we actually just need to sit down and talk it through and figure it out, and we actually are probably a lot closer than we think. So we don't need to use use software development to get that clarity. We can use analysis and requirements deliverables to get that clarity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Your software development hospital is not going to like what you just said.
My software
We
development,
don't
what?
need software development to get the clarity. We need the BA to have the clarity.
Well, we need software development for a lot of things, right? But I've never met a developer who like loves to like work and rework and rework and rework,
Yeah,
right? They
very
tend to get
true.
frustrated. Yeah.
Yes. We are moving on from the Agile BA to believe what is our final topic here: artificial intelligence and business analysis. How, in your opinion, has the advent of artificial intelligence affected day-to-day work of business analysts? Has it affected it at all in your experience at this time already?
It's definitely a tool set that I have started to use and research and do some thinking about. And when I have talked about it with business analysts in the community, I mean, most people at this point are in the question, right? Like, how can we leverage this? What are the implications? What does it mean for me and my job? What does it mean for my company? Some people, of course, I'm sure across all professions are still like have their head buried in the sand and just hoping it will go away. But I really am, as I think about artificial intelligence and what is becoming available, I think that it can be a great thinking partner for the business analyst. So some of the things that I've played around with is having like chat GPT generate a draft of a use case or come up with questions around a new environment. Like if I'm going into an area that I haven't gone into before, what can you tell me about this domain? What kinds of questions should I be asking the stakeholders? Kind of helping with some of that research and really taking some of the time intensity and the learning curve out of those early phases that a BA will naturally face when they're on a new project or a new type of domain, as well as putting in structures just to create drafts that'll give you a starting point so that you're not starting from scratch. I think at this point, we are very far away from AI being the tool that is going to help get stakeholders on the same page or ensuring that the requirements are solving the right problem, right? There's so many layers or places where a business analyst is going to provide a lot of value. And so it's a tool set that can help us augment our thinking, that can help us be more efficient. And really also something we need to start bringing to our business community of like, here are the potential opportunities with AI. Like, how could we leverage this in our company to create more efficiencies or even add more value in the marketplace?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You mentioned one skill that a BA needs at this time, and that is understanding prompts for artificial intelligence, being able to communicate properly with an AI and
Yeah.
getting the responses back that you are looking for. All right. So that is something that you can, train yourself by just simply using artificial
Yeah.
intelligence. Do you see any other skills that a BA could focus on today in order to sort of prepare? AI is it's growing, it's coming. And in 3 to 5 years, you will need this skill here. So get going with that. Learn about it. Train yourself on it.
Yeah. So I think just continuing to stay abreast of what the capabilities are. And I feel like this is always the hardest part for me. I don't feel like a thinker of the future of like, where is this all going? Right. But staying in tune with what the opportunities are and what, like, just asking the question. So like, for example, like we had a conversation today in my company of like, how could AI support us in our customer service? How could it support us in our instructor work? And just looking at what are those key processes, those key business processes in your company that are resource intensive, and starting to brainstorm the ways that AI could be part of that, as well as if you're in an end user product type company, like where are the places where AI could add value to our customers. So I think it's more in conceptualizing and facilitating the conversation and not kind of blocking it out than like thinking that you can build a specific skill set right now, because it's just changing so quickly. Like I feel like every time I learn about it, something new becomes available. So it's that adaptability and that continuous learning as a mindset that's probably more important than diving deep down a specific skill.
You said something new becomes available. What I am seeing is that on the side of project management, the manufacturers of project management software that help you, manage a work breakdown structure all the way down to the task level and the schedule, they will start building more and more AI tools into the systems, right? That's how artificial intelligence is going to be sort of pushed in front of us. It's just going to be normal. It's going to be here. So
Yeah.
is this what you mean by, it's changing so that tools that BA use are also being augmented with artificial intelligence features?
As well as the tools that they're writing the requirements for, right?
Ah,
So like as you're envisioning a process, so that's what I mean by like, where's the business processes that are sticky or resource intensive in your company, and then what are the capabilities of AI that might be able to make that process more efficient. So like how would it fit into your tools to help your company do business better? But yes, to a great point as well, how
yeah.
like I think we'll start to see it in some of we've already seen it in terms of tools that can be on Zoom and take meeting notes and send out summaries, right? So how do we leverage that, and if it works within the regulations within your company, right? To be more efficient instead of feeling like that's the work that we need to do. Could we see tools that listen to that conversation and go and update your requirements documents for you? Like that would be amazing. So being open to those ideas. Yeah.
I know you said that you're not really good about predicting the future and
Mm.
seeing where this is going. So I may be putting you on the spot here. If you had to pick one area, what do you think, which area do you think is going to be affected the most by artificial intelligence for business analysts?
What area? Um, I keep coming back to like it's going to get embedded into all of our business applications, right? So I mean that's a pretty broad area, but it's going to be how can our companies leverage it to do business better? So that's where to really be paying attention to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And before we moved on to this topic here, and we are talking about AI and BA. The previous topic, and there's a reason why I'm going back, is the Agile BA, because didn't see this until right now. We have another comment that came in from LinkedIn. Agile is all about continuous gathering, refining, updating, and executing as per the customer requirements. Hence, the importance of BAs. I think you are fully behind. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nothing remains to be said, right? So, yes, we totally agree. We totally agree on that. Okay. I don't want to make this the final thing that we talk about here. So, I have my usual takeaway slide. Laura, if you had to pick 2, 3 things that we talked about today, what would you say are the big takeaways that people wanted to get into business analysts analysis? See, I keep doing it. Those who are BAs, those who are PMs, what should we all take away from our conversation here today?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones, and it became apparent in hearing you share some of the bits that you shared as well, is like business analysis skills as well as project management skills. Like they're relevant in a lot of different roles, right? And you may already be doing business analysis work as a project manager. You may be doing project management work as a business analyst. I almost did the same thing.
I affected
So
you.
like just an appreciation of that. And I've been talking a lot lately about like for business analysts getting out of the BA box and of like I do these things because I'm a BA and I don't do those things because those aren't business analysis. And I think that is the mindset that we need to have as we go into all this transformation, that we look at what's coming is just how can I leverage these skills to add more value for my company versus what is my role and what is the box that I put myself in. And when I talk about that, I always like to emphasize too, like, you are in charge of your career. Like, you get to decide. If you're a project manager who wants nothing to do with this, like, then you decide and you really hone the skill sets that you're most excited about. But if like you're like, gosh, I actually do some of those things and that's exciting to me, like that could be a great opportunity to build a more conscious competency and bring some, elevate that skill set and how you bring it into your organization as well. So you are in charge, you get to decide, and there's so many ways that you can take all of these skill sets as you move forward in your career.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate the conversation and the opportunity to talk to you about BA and PM.
Thank you so much for having me here, Cornelius. Yeah.
Yes, and don't forget, it is bridging-the-gap.com, everybody, if you want to know more about Laura and how to become a business analyst or a better business analyst. Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you, everybody. As always, please do visit pm-podcast.com/489 for show notes and transcripts and also PDU information. You can earn about 3/4 of a PDU in probably the ways of working area. I haven't decided exactly yet. I have to look at it again for watching and listening to this particular interview. Our email is info@pm-podcast.com. And finally, we have this. Business analysts and project managers are like peanut butter and jelly. They stick together, make a mess sometimes, but ultimately, we make a pretty good sandwich. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Until next time.